something like that. And
the point was telling the child you can never get out. And then the child is also forced into perpetration. So the child, like, Johnny Gosh, or a child that's gone through this, is always forced into perpetration during these orgies and rituals.
And then there's the guilt.
And they can never get out. They feel, well, I'm one of them. I had to do this. And it's not like they wanted to do it; they were forced. So
it's kind of like prostitution, and the same kind of thing. You break somebody down, and they all of a sudden are that. Wow. All right. Okay, it has been called the most important book ever to appear on this subject. Linda Stone's The Family Tree. What is it about this horrible darkness that would cause a family to turn their little child over to this kind of treatment? I've never been able to figure that out. And the answer obviously has to be that the parents themselves, or parent, is in fact a part of the cult and was in fact violated as well in many cases. I would assume that's correct. But that's still, there's such a thing as being a parent, and it's a natural instinct. You want to protect your child, and yet they turn these kids over to these things. The kids aren't all kidnapped. It doesn't always happen.
No, I mean, these are multi-generational Satanism, or the acts are perpetrated on the children generation after generation after generation after
So the
generation.
parent violates the child.
And they tell the children that we are doing this because we love you. That's what my children were told by their father and
At what
grandparents.
age would that be common to try to pull that kind of crap on some kid? We love you, so we're going to turn you over to these people in this big room or whatever. We'll come and get you in a couple hours. Don't worry, we love you.
Or and it's happening at home. It doesn't have to happen outside the home.
No,
it's
of course,
in the home a lot.
Yeah.
So the children were, while they were being abused sexually by the grandparents and father, were being told, this is how families love each other. And we're doing this because we love you. Because in what they actually are so embroiled in evil that they believe that all of these evil acts that they've committed and generation after generation have gained them such power and such money, right, that it's a great thing. This is how you'll succeed in life.
Cheap price to play, right? Or pay.
We just
turn your
this is
kid
what we
into
do
it.
for this wonderful lifestyle. And it's an instinct, like you said, for a parent not to do that. But what about when you've been raised in it yourself?
Right.
And then they do get off on, like in my situation, I was not a Satanist. I didn't have a clue about it. It was early before McNarton preschool ever broke open, so there was no reference for it. When people say, well, how could you not know? There's no reference for this. I'm one of the people that helped bring the reference out. All the survivors are the ones who've done that.
You think of the cult and the network, and one of the most obvious tentacles of this monstrosity, of course, are the Catholic priests who've been doing this for a couple thousand years.
Centuries.
Yeah. Same thing. It's
military.
Just... Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, look at the recent Penn State football coach scandal.
Right.
That's not the only instance of that. These things are hushed up and covered up all the time, I'm beginning to think, and it's probably as common as it is not to have somebody in these positions of power and influence, whether it be a business or some other organization that are involved in this. And it boggles the mind to try to imagine how this could be going on for those who are not in it. It just does. And that's to the advantage of the evil ones.
Absolutely. And especially in light of, attractive, successful, articulate, educated people, doing this. that's where people's minds have a very difficult time comprehending that this is going on in many, many homes in America.
Survivors,
throughout the world.
Linda, survivors of this go on in life not necessarily to repeat to their children, although you're making a case that it happens a lot. But do they and can they live normal lives if they don't access the trauma, if they somehow keep it hidden away, repressed? And then, in that case, it's rather common sense that if you do repress something so horrific, it's got to come out somewhere.
That's a good point. The traditional, not traditional, but, in the McMartin preschool case and all the top experts in that field that came out, there was a philosophy or whatever you want to call it in the field that, the trauma did need to be consciously talked about in therapy or brought to the surface so that it could be realized. I don't know. I think that is important myself. It was very important for my daughter to have a close person in her life and a good family therapist to be able to talk to, because the whole mind control is to never talk about those acts.
Well, then there are those. That's right.
So the talking is important.
There are those in the field who, yes, I would think, but there are those in the field, professionals, experts, as we've talked about, who say it's really a good idea not to go delving around in the past. And I don't know what to say about that. I'm just watching and observing something that is so preposterously ugly. I don't know how to approach it. I guess it depends on the individual. If they can handle it, quote, handle it, maybe it's a good idea to get in there and get that stuff rooted out and see it for what it was. For others, maybe not. I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, it's in case-by-case situation. And then, I've met survivors of just, infrequent sexual abuse. Maybe an uncle, touched them inappropriately a few times. And those people cannot access the actual event. They have body memory. So if there can be so many years that have occurred that the events occurred, the traumatic ritual abuse event, and the mind, would be so dissociated, or it would be so difficult for the person to even access the conscious memories that, that could be a possibility with individuals as well. So it really is complicated.
Very much so. It would drive some people, I would think, to alcoholism, to certainly all kinds and all manner of dysfunctionality as adults. How could it not? I mean, this is
pedophilia. My daughter told me that pedophilia is, all these cases that have been breaking open, like you said, the Penn State. I did see a little documentary on Sandusky, and he was in a boys' home.
Yep.
And a lot of those people looked quite suspicious to me in the boys' home. Just looking at them, like, oh yeah, the Aussie area.
Well, go back and look at Boys Town again. That's and look at England, all the private boys' schools. It's institutionalized over there.
So she was saying that so many people have been raised in this, and that pedophilia is such an addiction that we're seeing tons of cases of it now, to the point where parents are much more savvy to sexual abuse of children, I find, today, and they're very, very protective, and with good reason. The good parents who don't want their child to be gotten hold of.
On the other side of the coin, the pop culture now is becoming more tolerant of sexual aberrations. Look at Bill Clinton. He rather started it all at a high level. His perversions, people began laughing, and pretty soon many world leaders have been caught, and there's no accountability, and that sets a template in the minds of the public. And then you see it in the media all the time, and then you see it in the entertainment media all the time. So pretty soon the aberration becomes the norm.
That's a really good point. Sounds like you were talking about the degeneration of society.
Well, the devolution of society, and I guess it's not the root word isn't devil, but it ought to be devolution. Right. Is quite clear. We are losing it, and in fact we have lost it. Our young people don't understand the morality that those of us who grew up in a reasonable time at least were aware of. Maybe we didn't necessarily have it always at home, but these young people now, they intellectually don't understand it. They don't speak the language, and that's the game. That's the idea of mass social engineering and programming, to change the entire paradigm by working with young people through the media to reprogram and rewire them so their normal sociological baseline of behavior is so different from that of their parents and grandparents that they now have a whole new world to more easily control and subjugate. And it's all done with technology and an incredible brilliance at mass social shaping and manipulation. They have supercomputers now, that's right, that can do anything in terms of predictive results of introducing things into a society. Anyway, we've got about a minute left, Linda, so I'm going to step back and what haven't we talked about you want to present?
Oh, I think we've covered a lot, Jeff, and people do need to read the book and become educated, read The Highest Altar next, and just, realize that this is occurring and be very, very careful. Let's not expose ourselves to mass media stereotyping, and let's protect our minds, and let's protect our children and protect ourselves.
We used to have the figure that by the time the average high schooler graduated, they would see 8,000 murders and 250,000 injuries via the television. Now that is a pittance compared to what they see now. The violence is so enormous, and that absolutely is part of the programming.
By the top people in the world.
They know exactly what they're doing. Thank you again for being
Jeff.
Here. Congratulations for standing so tall. All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye.
The Family Tree by Linda Stone. It's a true account of multi-generational Satanism in America today, and it is in your neighborhood and in your community. All right, we'll be back.